Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I think if the collective brains in this room can deal with eutrophication, you can probably deal with digesting European Commission coffee as well. So I wish you luck in your recovery from that. You're very welcome here to Brussels. I was watching this. I mean, it doesn't matter how often you integrate and meet with scientists and innovators in different parts of Europe. It never ceases to astonish me the inventiveness of what happens when you get people working together on common problems. And we can talk, and I will talk in various ways about bonus, but I think what we've seen here in the video is really what working together in Europe is about. It's really about where we live, fixing the problems that we have, very practical problems, and making things better. And the commitment you've seen, Carlos Moedas, our Commissioner, in European research and innovation, is to really bring something where we are really ahead in the world in fixing some of these problems in terms of research and innovation, in dealing with our ecosystems, and in dealing with this huge challenge that we have facing the world on sustainability. What does sustainability mean where we live? It doesn't mean a boundary condition that prevents us from having decent, clear water or land and sea interactions that can be used to the benefit of everybody, or 80 million people who can live within the resource constraints that they have. It means turning it into an active verb. It means actually using sustainability, the challenge of sustainability, to build the kind of environments and jobs and communities and neighbourhoods that we need. And so bonus in itself, you'll be talking about these terrific first wave of projects that we can now talk about. It's not simply important in itself where you live and in terms of some of the very complex issues that you're trying to resolve. It's important for the rest of the European research and innovation community, the scientific community, the innovation community, and most importantly, the people outside of that community who are looking at all these huge issues like the COP21 and wondering, what can we do with all of these problems? And so it's very, very important that you communicate outside of your immediate group and you show just what it is that science and innovation can do when people get together and make the best efforts. I can't underline this enough. We're at a critical moment, not just in terms of where, bonus moving on to the next phase, but also in terms of people looking to see how can we actually solve these problems and examples. This is a really tough problem, a set of problems that we're dealing with in the Baltic states, and it will take a generation or more to resolve some of these issues, but it shows what can be done. So I plea from the heart, there's fantastic work going on there, and for all of you, whether you're working in these very challenged and tasked organisations around the Baltic, or you're working in different parts of science and research, identify the networks outside of your immediate family and go out and communicate the kind of information that is showing that there can be a difference made if we invest and cooperate in the right way. And I think at the end of the video we were shown the ambition, which is to reach out into another macro-regional level of ambition. People need to be convinced, and they need to see that this is something which is inevitable. There's an inevitability about fixing the problems that we have in the Baltic and in learning the lessons and applying them elsewhere. And that's what Europe basically is about. It's about making where we live the kind of place that we want it to be. So that's an Irishman's very long thank you and welcome to Brussels, and thank you for welcoming here to share this time and space with you. Bonus really has been a trailblazer. It's been a pioneering program, and that's always quite difficult. But it has been the first macro-regional strategy in Europe's research and innovation. And to do that, and you can see it, the people in the room, the people that I meet when we were in Riga recently or Helsinki some time ago, you can see that it's only working because there's a deep understanding of the need to work together to solve the problem and a mobilization of the scientific community to deal with the serious environmental challenges that are there. And on behalf of my colleagues in the Commission, I'd like to congratulate you and thank you for maintaining that level of commitment and effort. To ensure a sustainable Baltic Sea, of course, we need to understand how its environment works, how it interlinks with all of the different influences, such as the land-sea connection, the sea's chemistry, and the complex web of life. The land-sea connection, where we're learning so much in the Baltic, is becoming a recurrent theme across the array of research and innovation in what we call the bioeconomy. So my fancy title the director of the Bioeconomy, and trying to work out what it actually means after a couple of years because it's so complicated. But one of the things we're realizing that our biological resources in so many different ways are interconnected. And we need to understand how they're connected upstream and downstream, on land and on sea. And so the work that you're doing in the Baltic Sea is really pioneering in this way. And we're watching and learning from that. The world's oceans and seas, as we know, are impacted in many different ways by human activities. And the Baltic Sea, which is a very specific environment, partly almost enclosed, this extraordinary water residency of 30 years, and facing these issues of eutrophication, algal blooms, oxygen-depleted dead zones, depleted fisheries, invasive species, and even dumped chemical munitions, I think is a list of challenges that a number of people other people, less resolute and capable people, would simply throw their hands in the air and say, well, this is just too difficult. But not in the Baltic Sea and not in BONUS. And I think that is a great credit to the courage of researchers. And science very often is what makes progress possible. Only, as we've seen, can transnational research and innovation provide integrated solutions necessary to first understand, map and overcome these challenges, and to bring in the surrounding economies to benefit around the Baltic Sea over the long term. I mean, it's very interesting. I saw Klaipeda there. Klaipeda was one of the first places I worked as a commission official 20 odd years ago. And it's just remarkable to see, the way in which working together means that in a place like Klaipeda, they can look at, can we open up a beach? Can we create socioeconomic development? Can we move the economy forward? So the opportunity to witness the first concrete achievements today and to hear about the results from 28 BONUS research and innovation projects that have been selected so far, it's really a landmark moment for us, and I think it's the kind of thing we need to do more of. Understand what is being done, what the impact is, and what is the direction of travel. BONUS provides support for enlarging our knowledge base and finding innovative solutions to these very complex environmental problems. And if we look at some of the projects, some of which have been identified in the video that we just saw, if you take soil to sea, for example, looking at the nutrient loads from agriculture and how they can be reduced. This is going to be one of the big issues, not just in the Baltic Sea, but in other parts of Europe. The innovative projects like OptiTreat and microalgae, looking to provide solutions which can optimize small-scale wastewater treatment systems and develop commercial algae production to reduce pollution. And there's a whole part of the bioeconomy, you could almost call it the microbial economy, that's emerging and where these kind of attempts to solve some of these problems are developing very innovative solutions that will take on a life of their own in terms of the societies and the economies that we're talking about. Or if we look at Isabalt, which is mentioned there, which aims to contribute to maritime safety in the Baltic, which is of such a critical issue given the history and the recent history in the Baltic. And this has received the status of a flagship project in the EU strategy of the Baltic Sea region. This is important recognition. It studies the feasibility of implementing a software platform for maritime information crowdsourcing to enable cross-border, cross-sector cooperation, and it integrates the latest technological advances in sensing, positioning and e-navigation. And I'm sure somebody will explain what all that means a little bit later on. But I think what we know, if you just look at that live map, you can see how hardwiring the different knowledge and information systems into this very complex area of maritime activity is a very important issue. Another BONUS project which has been selected as one of these flagship projects, Change. A great majority of leisure boats, we've seen it actually flagged in the video here, have this problem of using these toxic compounds to prevent fouling organisms, what we call anti-fouling. I have a very small unused boat in the North Sea, which I'm now going to go back and have a look at, and maybe just put it out of action or find a solution from the Baltic Sea. But the most commonly used biocide, as we know, in anti-fouling paints is copper oxide. But there are other prohibited compounds which can be released into the environment during hull cleaning and maintenance work. So this project is trying to reduce to a minimum the supply of toxic compounds from anti-fouling paints used on leisure boats in the Baltic Sea. A huge number of leisure boats. I mean, the numbers are remarkable. This can be achieved by changing practices on anti-fouling on leisure boats and to move towards sustainable consumption in terms of products and techniques. you take one, flagship project, and you can see the potential ramifications, not just in the Baltic Sea, but in other parts of the leisure industry. And last but not least, just recently, a third flagship project has been nominated, the Sheba project, which analyses the drivers for shipping and traffic volumes. It's developed a set of scenarios to feed into calculations of emissions to water, to air, underwater noise, another issue that's moving up the agenda in terms of the science agenda around the world, using and extending the latest emission model based on automatic identification system ship movement data, speaking for itself. But these are just a few of the projects we'll hear about today, demonstrating importantly how working in consortia together, bringing different aspects of science, different people from around the Baltic Sea, and working in a macro-regional strategy can work in terms of the context of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. It's very striking when you're moving around the European Union, which is great. Its greatest richness actually is our diversity, where people live, how people solve their problems, how they work together. And the simple truth is there's no such thing as a single bioeconomy. There is a number of bioeconomies. There are different regions and and the bioeconomies will only be built from the regions up. So the role of research and innovation in critical regions like the Baltic Sea, and the leadership that the bonus project and the bonus projects, programs and projects can give to bringing regional cooperation and development forward is not to be underestimated. And again, as I said at the beginning, go forth, go out and talk about what you're doing in the municipalities, in the regions, in the different organisations and areas that are beyond the immediate family of research and innovation. I take the opportunity to congratulate the people who've been involved in Bonus's contribution to integrate what is a very complex task, the fragmentation of research programming across the Baltic region, and establishing a real working integrated research and innovation programme undertaken by all of the Baltic states and to tackle the Baltic Sea's environmental and sustainability development challenge. It's easy to say these things, but our colleagues who are working in the Secretariat, those of you who are working, pulling these research programmes together, it's a huge task, it's a very complex task, and it just doesn't happen by people turning up and having meetings here and there. It's a commitment, it's a real engagement to change, and I'd like to thank you. We know these things are difficult to do, and so I'd like to congratulate and thank those who've worked on this for the last few years for bringing this forward, and that this is something we can really build on. I'd also like to encourage you, the bonus project coordinators, to foresee with the efforts that you have to increase continuing the connection and particularly the visibility and dissemination of your achievements and of the bonus programme as a whole. This is the point I made at the beginning. I'd really like to hammer this message home. You'll hear lots of more interesting things in the course of today, but it's very, very important that we make your success, your work, your integration, your cooperation, showing that it works, showing its potential, showing the delivery, and particularly in the months ahead is very important. Now, you'll be glad to hear I'm going to finish now, and I think this is the last of the introductory welcoming remarks. We define in Brussels a European Commission official as somebody who talks in everybody else's sleep, is the definition. So it's always good to get out of the room while you're still ahead. But I would really genuinely like to say you have our support. We have a great team, Siggy and Anna Teresa and our colleagues, and Peter, who's done such sterling work in the past. And you can count on us in working to listen, to learn, and to develop what needs to happen next. And I can only wish you every success today, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of the EU taxpayer's heart, and for the heart of those whose futures they don't know is going to be improved and immeasurably more secure in the future, the region where you live, in that part of Europe that's showing its way. So I thank you, and I wish you every good luck today. Thank you.